And we are live. So it's the regular Scrum of Rundfunk mitbestimmen, and it's the two of us. It's Domenico and me, Robert. And the idea was that we have maybe a recap about the recent bug fixes and features that were deployed. And maybe if people are interested, we can maybe talk about user requirements and how to maybe divide or structure user stories into epics and subtasks, because that's that was my idea. I think we are lacking a lot of user stories, and we don't have a hierarchy of user stories. Those that are rather small or really large. So, Domenico,
Yeah.
I would say let's. Do you think that sounds like a plan?
No. What do you mean?
Like, shall we have a recap on the recent bug fixes or the recent features
Let's
deployed?
do it. Let's do it in a fast way. So we recap it. Shall I start?
Yes, of course. Why not?
Okay. So on my side, I fixed two bugs.
Mhm.
The one was related to the ordering of the broadcasts when you make a text search, and the PG Jam added custom ordering based on how the broadcast match the text query. So the ordering, the alphabetical ordering that was done afterwards had no effect on it.
Exactly.
So to fix it, I just replaced order with reorder, what makes the previous ordering overrides it some way.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind if you just share your screen and maybe show the GitHub side and explain it with the code? Or shall I do it? I can also do it. I can also share my screen.
Yeah, it would be better, I think.
All right, so I'll share my screen. Screen share, application window. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So what you just explained is that we recently merged a pull request, and I think it was this one here.
Sorting has no effect.
Exactly, and let's have a look into the code. So, well, maybe have a look into the issue first. Yes, exactly. So we have this button here, and it's supposed to order the broadcast by name.
Yes.
Or randomly. And
yes.
That doesn't have an effect when you search, because the search, PG search, will kind of have its own ordering, which will override this ordering here. And we want it.
Yes, it is concatenated. First, the gem adds his ordering, and the alphabetical ordering is appended on at the end. So if you don't have an equal value for the PG ranking, the second ordering has no effect, of course.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what you can see here, right?
Yes.
We have, so apparently PG search works like this. It has a relevance, metric, rank, and it will order by this rank first, and then it orders by all the other attributes.
Yes.
And this one takes precedence over this
yes.
one. But from the user perspective, yes?
Yeah, of course, the first takes precedence in the order by query.
Yes, right. Yeah. So from the user perspective, the problem here was if the user actively wants to click on this button. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
All right,
yes.
Cool. On this button, we would expect that this one is more more important than the relevance rank here.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Yeah, then tell us a little bit about this pull request, maybe.
Yes, I fix it with this 2 lines, with this 1 line, just reorder instead of order. So the previous, so the order by contains just what comes after reorder, in this case title. And that's it. I added a test for it, and yes, after that I decided to refactor the search logic. I moved it from the controller in the model.
Yes, that's also really, really nice.
Yeah.
So it is great that you did you write a cucumber test. You had experience with cucumber tests so far?
Yes, I tried sometimes. I never used it overall in my projects, but I often try to use it in some cases.
Yeah, I think
it's not the first time I see it. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really, really great that you already get used to it. So I'm a big cucumber fan.
Yes.
Cucumber, for me, there are many reasons why I like cucumber, and I think the most compelling reason for me is you write executable documentation.
Yeah.
So cucumber is really just English description for a test. You could do the same thing without cucumber. You can do full stack testing with Capybara and RSpec, perfectly possible, and nothing wrong. But I really like English description. So whenever I have something that should be documented in a way that is relevant for developers, for example, or end users as well, or customers, you can Cucumber is a really great tool to describe, to document the code and make this documentation executable. I think this is also called specification by example, right? Here we go. Yeah, and Cucumber is one way how to do it. So whenever you have some kind of behavior and you think this is worth to document for all the other people in the team, I would say then.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really great. And I was even more intrigued by this kind of syntax here. I have never seen this before.
Yes, actually, it was the Cucumber gem that generated automatically. I just copied it.
Oh, okay. So that's a new version of Cucumber. I didn't know. It yeah, I generated the older step definitions with apparently an older version of Cucumber. Nice.
Yes, it was also for me the first time I saw this kind of tests with int and also with string. It's the same.
Nice. Yeah, and let's have a quick look into the feature. You have this ordering, and then we search for something, and we click on this button which has this ID. Then we expect this ordering. Does it actually, Tom, Popeye, is T?
It is descending.
Oh yeah, right. I was confused. Sorry, everything is okay. I was just like, there's something that's not as but it's descending. That's correct. Right. Cool. And maybe you want to say something about where is it? There was one more thing. So you've refactored the broadcast search, which I really like.
Yeah.
It's in general, it's better to have this logic in the model. Controllers.
Yes.
Try to make controller thin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. My apologies for the awful quality of the broadcast controller. It evolved and it grew, and it definitely needed some refactoring in order to make the code the quality better. And it's easier now to test the broadcast search. You can do that without firing up a controller test. Great, awesome. Maybe we have to look into this one here. That is a leftover of a previous piece of behavior. So in earlier versions, it was that if you support a broadcast, it's kind of gone. So broadcasts disappeared when you support them.
Okay.
It was strange. Now I think it's strange, but at the time I thought that would be a good idea. So you have like a stack of broadcast cards, and you take them one by one. So the system knows when you saw it.
Okay.
Is it clear? Does that make sense?
When the system knows when you saw it, or do you actively have to support or to say I don't support it?
Yeah, you say next. So there was you would see only one broadcast at a time.
Yeah,
there was one button, support. I don't know if I can still find I don't think I find a screencast of it, but just imagine there's one button, support, and button next below. And if you click on next, that means something like, okay, I don't care. And the broadcast would disappear, and the next broadcast would then appear.
Okay.
Right? So indeed, the backend knows if you saw a broadcast, but now it's kind of hidden from the user, and that makes more sense. So you can actually say next, then all those broadcasts here, they will get an impression.
Okay.
Right.
I wondered why you called it impression and not
vote.
Vote, yes.
Exactly. So that's a good question, because we maybe should find a good name for it. Matthew, one of the other collaborators of agile-ventures, he basically introduced this name, and I think it's okay for us, because it's the name impression only means, okay, you've seen this broadcast once, and apparently you didn't click on support. So when I click on next, you actually, can you see the
yes,
the network tab?
Yeah.
So you see, there we go. So there's a request to impression number 108. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's there. Of course, yeah, impression. That's all right. So to this impression here, and so whenever you click on next, there will be 6 requests made for every broadcast. Just to let the backend know what broadcast a user already had seen. Right? But it doesn't distract you from searching broadcasts, and you will find broadcasts even if you already supported them. So I will remember die Morgenmagazin. Now I click next, and I kind of voted neutral on that broadcast, but I still can search for it, and there we are.
Yeah.
Right? And that was different in earlier versions of this application. So this is the reason why I still see this kind of awkward thing, evaluated and unevaluated. That was my naming, which is not a very good naming for, okay, you only want to see those broadcasts who are kind of to do, or you want to see those broadcasts that you history or something.
Okay.
So if you want to know where is this history thing, where did that end up, it's still there. It's here. Like if you click on my history, that will fire a request to the backend and
impressions.
With this particular query parameter review. There we go. Okay. Can you see it? Ah, yeah, yes, there. Yes. Right. Just to give you an idea why there's still this code. So it is just old code, right? And yeah, great that you refactored it. And just to maybe you wondered what this code is about.
Yeah, I just refactored it without knowing what it is used.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. You are very welcome to refactor. We have tests, so don't worry about it. You can.
Yes, that's great. Yes.
Exactly. So you can refactor with confidence. I don't know if you actually can chain those scopes. I haven't tried that out, but it doesn't happen as far as I know.
It should.
Yeah.
Should be. Yes.
Anyhow, I think as long as I'm not quite sure, but yeah. At some point, probably we can also make this a little bit more. Maybe this has some kind of value to the user because he can see what he did, what were his last actions, maybe.
Yeah.
Right now, it's basically the same view like this one here. Just it looks more like a table, and it would be great if this history thing could be just your actions, like the log, the activity log on Facebook or something. What do you think?
Yes. You mean to remove all the things you saw but you didn't click?
Yeah, right now, for example, this one here is I think it's still ordered by no, it's not ordered in any way. So I don't even know. It's ordered by last viewed. So
Yes.
when did you by updated at? And so, for example, if I say I want to I would expect if I change my response to this broadcast to have another item here that actually says, okay, you checked it, unchecked
it. Okay. Now I got you. Yes.
Maybe. Okay, great. So that was pull request number 2, which is amazing. Really, like when I saw this, I thought like, thank you so much.
No.
Yeah. And there was really nothing I could probably improve. Like everything looks pretty awesome. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And some RSpec tests. So if you want to, maybe I can give something to you. I tried to make those scrums in a way that people learn a lot. And as far as I know, Dominica, you wanted to learn more agile methodology and
Yes.
test driven, right?
Yes.
So what I can tell you from my experience is that you have different sizes or different flavors of tests. You have unit tests and I'll show you something. You have unit tests and integration tests and full stack tests. And I often talk about the so-called testing pyramid. Have you seen the testing pyramid before?
No.
So I once gave a talk about full stack testing. There we go. Full stack testing in Ember and Rails. And I made this picture like this one here. This is the testing pyramid in our case. So you have unit tests, integration tests, acceptance tests, and full stack tests. And they, you have, in our case, you have those tests divided by the front end and back end. So you have unit tests in the back end and in the front end separately, right?
Yeah.
So you can run front end tests and you can run back end tests. And if you run the front end test, you will basically run this part of the pyramid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if you run backend tests, you will run this half of the backend, this half of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do full stack testing, you will run this upper part here.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference of full stack testing is that you test the entire stack. So what you did, for example, when you wrote those full stack tests with Cucumber, you're testing the entire stack. Let's have a look into that again. Exactly. So So you're testing several requests. So you set up some state in the database, and then you visit in the front end a particular page.
Yeah.
And you expect the page to load something, and there should be a search bar. Then you search for something, then there will be another request. Then you expect a certain result, and you order. Oh yeah, so you search and then you order 2 requests, and then you have a certain result. And this all goes through front end and back end. So if there's any reason, so if there's any error, it's very likely that you will catch that with the full stack test. If there's any error, it's likely it will break a full stack test. And that's what I mean with the testing confidence, which you can see here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more you go up the pyramid, the confidence into your test will increase.
Yes.
And the downside of full stack tests are they take they take a long time to execute. Yeah. So unit tests are very fast in execution, and full stack tests are very slow in execution. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
Just to give you an idea.
Yeah, I watched the tests going through.
Yeah.
Very much in the last days. So.
Yeah, and it's difficult because you've seen how the full stack tests are actually set up. So you have to fire up three terminals, and those full stack tests are those that take the most time. But they are also the most, they are the tests with the largest coverage of code, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How long did that take? 200 and... Come on. Almost 5 minutes. Yeah. Quite a while. Oh no, it's here also. So almost 5 minutes. And it's already, well, it's quite long. So I was working in a company, and we had a test cycle of an hour or something. Right, so there was a pull request, and you had to wait an hour until you could hit the merge button, right? But that happens, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you will eventually have a long execution time on your build server if the application is really big.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do some kind of parallelization. I don't know.
Don't know.
So. Yeah, I hope this kind of explains a little bit. And yeah, so I really like this pull request, and I really love this pull request. You tried out both kinds of testing, like backend testing and full stack testing, just depending on what you need, and that's great. Like you can have a
lot of... when I think the easiest part of backend testing is the model test, the unit test. I have more problems when I have to test controllers or integration.
Oh yeah, okay, that's interesting to hear. I can help you a lot with controller testing and request testing. So when I do request testing, I basically do something like mocking up the open a new tab. Can I just open? There we go. So I just do this. Like a request test is basically you hit an URL, and then you expect the response to be of something, right? And it's good that you tell me this, because I really try my best to give you the make you happy. And give some reward in exchange for your code. And that reward would be something like some knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you go into the folder requests, you will find all those requests that we test. So Is there something? Maybe this one. I think that's not too long. Yes. And it's a matter of taste, but when I do RSpec testing, I'm doing it in a hierarchic. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I have a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I structure it like, okay, by HTTP request. Like, it's really just a matter of taste. Other people will do it differently. I just show you one way to do it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this gives you some inspiration. I don't mind if people do it differently. So the first level of hierarchy is the HTTP request type, or HTTP verb, which would be get. So this is a get request, right? So if it just hit enter, that will be a get, no?
Yes.
And I structure this like, okay, I have parameters and headers. That's the parameters that I can put up here. So query parameters are parameters. And headers, it depends on if you, for example, if you are authenticated or not.
Yeah.
Our application right now works with JSON Web Tokens. And so if you want to simulate a user who is logged in, you can do this, and you merge a particular authenticated header into the list of headers, and suddenly you're authenticated. Right? And of course, you have to create a user first.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can see here. So everything in this context is within a context of a logged-in user. Yeah. So levels are like HTTP, then what kind of URL, which is currently media. So get, media, and then some state in the database, maybe a subroot, which will override the URL, and then something that gives some hints for the developer. I'm testing translations, so I usually write describe when I want to describe a particular URL or a particular feature. I want to test, for example, the translations. And usually I write context when I set up the state in the database. I don't know. Do you have some kind of pattern or convention?
No, not really, because like I said, I didn't use it in a consistent way. So
I see.
Each time I start over again. So.
All right. So to give you an idea, what is made up by me and what is actually a community convention, everything you can read in here. Like this is a collection of bad and good practices.
Yes, I saw this page.
This is really, really helpful. When it basically answered 90% of all my questions, how to become, how to structure my RSpec tests. It's great. I really can recommend it.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I disagree is let bang, because I so often overlook it. For me, it's hard to find it. So when I set up state in the database, I usually do something like this before, and then I create this medium.
Okay. Yeah, I use sometimes let bang.
Yeah.
In some cases.
It's perfectly okay. Like the only reason why I don't do it is I feel kind of paranoid that people would overlook it. Like it's just one character and so easy to miss. But it's just a matter of taste. And I haven't found a proper answer to that question in particular. Also, I don't know, it would be interesting for me as well. Is that actually this kind of hierarchic test setup? Does that make sense? Like here I'm overwriting the URL, and here I'm giving I explain what is the medium, even though the medium was used already there. It depends. it is a level of abstraction which I'm not sure if that's easy to get. What do you think? Can you give me maybe some feedback on it? What's your opinion?
I think you have to get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing it just one time, for me, it seems a little bit too much nested. But once you know the meaning of the hierarchy, you can read it better this way.
So apparently people had the same question. So there's one guy from 2011 who asked them about a hierarchic RSpec test and how to structure code. Oh, there's even a whole presentation about it. Yeah. Yes, and by the way, describe and context, they are synonyms. So they do exactly the same thing. It's just syntactic sugar. There was a best practice. Describe for things. There we go. He's doing the right thing. So context for states and describe for, things. Yeah, what I want to test. Interesting. I love this these scrums just because for that reason. Like I'm questioning habits, right?
Yeah.
Like you sometimes you don't think about why you're doing things, and then you find out
there is a reason.
Yeah, and you didn't even think about that. Like, nice. And yeah, cool, awesome. Yeah, and if you here we are. What are the actual expectations? So I make heavy use of this particular method, this particular test helper called parse JSON. Parse JSON is from GAM. So the JSON API is. Do you know the JSON API?
Yeah.
You know the JSON API?
Yes, I think so. Yes, of course. Yes.
This one here. So this is a specification, and I find it very helpful to have this kind of helper. So parse JSON means look into the first data. It's a tree traversal GAM basically. So this particular method here is traversing the tree, data, attributes, name. You can also put in indices like a 0 in there. So for example, you could say /data 0, that would be the first entry here, and then type. And then you would get articles. So I use parse JSON in order to expect specific values at certain, how do you say, in the document, certain attributes.
Yes.
Yeah, you can find parse JSON here. Yeah, you can basically see this. It doesn't even have to be a JSON API specified JSON. I think you can use just anything, as far as I know. Do you think that's helpful? Like, what is your opinion?
Well, yes, to test the JSON results, of course, yes. It's easier to write this little string instead of writing code that finds a part in a JSON.
Yeah. And in this case, for example, we are testing the translation. So you were testing, okay, the user's logged in and the user has a local English. And what are we testing? I see. Okay, so the test is, that's interesting. We're testing the translation of the response based on data in the database in the user. So the user does not have to provide any parameters like the locale, for example. If the locale is safe to the user, the response will also be translated into according to that locale, which is interesting. So when you log in, which I'm currently doing. Okay, now I switch to German, and I log out. Oh, okay. I wasn't even logged in. So yes, I log in. It was in English, and now okay, it was set to English. Okay, I'll log out again. And when I log in now, so the page was in English.
Yes, I should.
Yes, and it gets translated to German.
Yeah.
And the reason is that we recently changed something. When you change the language, that will also hit the database. If you log in, of course. For people who don't log in, we cannot store anything, right? And that has the nice advantage that the whole application will be translated based on the user language, which is in the database. And yeah, we are testing, for example, we're testing that here in the backend. Does that make sense? Like, do you think? Yeah. Do you agree? Do you think that's valuable? What's like? Is it? Does it make sense?
to test to save the language in the database, you mean?
For example, yeah.
Well, yes, you could. The alternative perhaps would be to save it in the session. I think, but it's better to save it in the database so that you can have the same configuration also if you access from a different device.
Yeah, true. Yeah, sure, exactly. So for me, writing request tests is not that difficult, I would say. I often start with copying pasting from other tests and just removing parts. Right? I would, for example, then remove, if I'm testing a different controller, I would replace that string, of course, the URL. And most of the time, I'm testing the get, the response. That's it, basically.
Okay.
The part is this will hit the controller. So if you think about the testing pyramid, the request test in our case is actually an acceptance test for the backend. All right, because if you consider the backend as an independent piece of software, you can. I would say the acceptance test in the backend is a request test because that's all the backend has to do. And other front ends, whether it is a web front end or a mobile front end, whatever, they communicate with that API, right? Do you?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I talked already a lot. Do you think I'm talking too much? I'm just pushing everything out, and I always feel like I'm constantly talking, blah 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 blah.
No, well, you are explaining, so you have to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at the Code Motion in Berlin today. That was a conference, a tech conference, and I was also among the speakers. So I'm still in the talking mood, right? Maybe I should slow down a little bit. And yeah, maybe what do you think? What would you be interested in right now to learn? So I am regarding the progress of our application. I started to create more user stories and create more issues and stuff.
Yeah.
But are you actually interested in that? Should I talk a little bit about that, or do you want me to?
Yeah. So until now, I just made small bug fixes because I found it in the issues, and I did know what I had to do, so I picked it and did it.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can go further and make a new feature.
Yeah, sure. Then I will start my screen sharing again. So I'm using a particular browser plugin which is called ZenHub. Do you use?
Yes, I did install it.
Right. So and I was contemplating about our backlog of issues, and it appeared to me that it is the way how I look at user requirements is different from what is good for new developers. So when I'm talking, for example, to a customer or something, I try to see everything through his eyes. So when I, for example, write a user story, I try to stick to this user story template. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
In order to really express the value.
Yeah.
In the company I was a full stack developer at a company once for a year or something. And what I really disliked is that the user requirements were really, really specific, like implement this and that at that particular place in the code. Like even they were telling us put an if statement there. Something like that. And I really disliked it because I never understood why, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of ruined the opportunity of letting the developer decide what's the best solution, right? Maybe there's a better solution for the problem. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I really try, instead of describing the what, I try to focus on the why. And I think this is good if you want to do user requirements. So here, what is it about? Okay, let's say you really like a broadcast which is currently live, and maybe there's a mobile application which is not existing right now, but then maybe you can click on the broadcast at this time. If you know the station, for example, you're currently watching Das Erste, then for the current moment, it is determined what broadcast this is, right? And then you can click on it and immediately get to it, something like that. And this is what I'm trying to explain with this in order or to have blah, blah, blah. This is explaining the why. This is explaining the user value.
Yeah.
Right? And I find it extremely helpful when you do requirements engineering and you're talking with a customer. From my experience so far, because it's not predetermining the way how it is implemented, right?
Yeah. In some way also avoids to implement features that in reality have no value for the customer.
Exactly. Oh my God, how many features did I implement which I think were utterly nonsense? Like they cost a lot, and they cost the customer, and it doesn't have any value. Yeah, you're totally right. I so much agree. And I really try to avoid that with those user stories. And I'm really a beginner with agile-ventures, so I'm trying to learn how to build a community. And what I found out that this freedom, which has its advantages, is not optimal for people who are very new to this website, right? So at agile-ventures, I found out people usually are familiar with Rails, and they want to have like the smallest issue possible.
Yeah.
And they're not too much concerned about the user value of this issue. They just want, for example, to fix a bug.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, maybe you can tell me a little bit about it. I would love to hear some feedback about how you got in touch with this application. Like, what is your...
Well, yeah, the way was through a Rails course on the edX page, where they introduced agile-ventures.
Yeah.
So I signed up on agile-ventures. I looked at the projects, and since I grew up in Germany, I read Rundfunk mitbestimmen, and I picked it.
Yeah, I see. Okay, amazing.
Yeah. Yes,
that's great. Yeah. I think I can tell you hours and hours about this project, because I think it's so relevant. There was a couple of days ago, there was a big story at Spiegel. I don't know. Do you know this newspaper, Spiegel?
Yeah, I know.
So it's paid content. Oh. Okay, there's one main story about public broadcasting at Spiegel, and they are asking the same questions, like why do they take the money and they don't let people decide, like why there's no participation. And all those news or all those recent reports, they kind of confirm that this application is definitely relevant, and it's solving exactly this problem, right?
Yeah, well, I believe it also. I didn't choose it for this reason, because I didn't know so much about it when I looked at the project, and because the main reason I went on agile-ventures was for learning, the agile method. So yes. It was not so much about the project itself, but obviously I think it's a valuable project.
Yes, of course. I mean, I learned that, right? So most people, they don't care about the project that much. They want to learn something, and they want to pick an application that meets their interests. Like, I'm interested into a React application, or I want to learn Ember.js, or whatever. A lot of people want to learn Rails. So in order to make those issues, so that was my idea. Maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm not. It is good. So I was thinking it is better if you have really small issues, and with a lot of make those issues as small as possible, and don't put too much freedom into it. So give directions. Explain a little bit how this may be implemented, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, for somebody who starts developing in Rails, it is better if the issue is short and some kind of slow start.
Yeah.
If you are in front of a very difficult task and you don't know where to begin, and perhaps you don't begin.
Yeah, exactly. Now, maybe this is overwhelming for people when they look at this issue list and probably people don't understand most of the issues. So that's a problem, and I really try my best to make this better. Here, I think GitHub recently that actually fits perfectly. I see this new message here that they have this special dedicated issues called help wanted in Git first issue, and of course I added that to the labels because that's great. So my hope is that in the end we have more issues than just 36, and we have smaller issues, and some of those issues are labeled good first issue, for example. So when people are joining in agile-ventures, I can just tell them you can filter by good first issue, and maybe you find something suitable for you.
Yeah, I think that's great. That would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, that is actually the goal. And what I want to talk as a last thing maybe is there are these epics in ZenHub, and I never paid attention to them. But maybe this is one, I don't know. It is maybe just an idea. They add a level of hierarchy to your issues. Yeah. So an epic is just a big user story. And it has some other user stories contained in it, more or less. So what I would say then is I just read this article on ZenHub, and I kind of tried to research a little bit about epics and user stories and subtasks, and there's more to it. There's Bastian had some things about to say, and community, blah blah blah, and I think Mountain Goat software also. There we go. Difference between a story and a task. So apparently, it's good if you have different kind of levels of your user stories to have big user stories and smaller user stories, and make some kind of a hierarchy. Yeah, maybe this image here. Oh no, that's a presentation. Yeah. So at the top level, there's the epic, and then you have stories, and you have subtasks. And now I come up with my very own definition of it. I was always like kind of living in this level here. Like I was always writing user stories. But I should add more in this area, and also should add some issues up here. That was my that's my feeling right now, and I try to do this by example, like maybe create one epic or more epics, and create a couple of user stories, and then add some subtasks to it, right? So I would say that each of those data visualizations here, that's what we want to accomplish. For example, this one here, like clicking on a broadcast and see the population pyramid of all the supporters of that broadcast, and then maybe add your own data to it in order to update the population pyramid. Does that actually make sense?
Yes.
So this is an epic, like this whole feature. It's like a huge feature. It definitely has some value to the user, because then people can immediately see okay, this broadcast is very popular among young ladies, for example. And the other visualizations as well are epics. Like I want to see how 5 broadcasts developed over time, and I can compare them. Like how did the people supported them or didn't support them, something like that, right?
Yes. Actually I cannot imagine the sub stories of this kind of epics, but for sure there are. For sure there are. So
yeah, maybe we can work on that. And so my suggestion was I just did that prior to this Scrum right now. I created a couple of epics. So for every visualization, I created an epic. And this is the first time I did that. So I don't know if I did it in a good way or the right way. So for example, I try to assign a user story again to this whole epic, right? Because for my feeling, an epic should have a clear user value, right? It's just a really big user story.
Yes, it's a story, just a little bit more, perhaps more generic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I try to like sketch the bigger picture. What could, if people who are working in broadcasting, for example, if they check out the application, what kind of problems or what questions could they get an answer to if they see those visualizations? Like, let's say you have a broadcast which is running since, I don't know, 5 years, and it was really popular 3 years ago. And maybe you can see that it kind of declined in the meantime, something like that. Or is it actually true that if the support by KPI, by the way, I mean key performance indicators, and I just made that term up. What I mean is like these columns here, right? These are KPIs for me. It's something that you can compare broadcasts, something how you can compare two broadcasts. So does it actually mean if a broadcast has a high percentage of people who want to support that broadcast, does that also mean that they also like to give high amounts or something, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was my suggestion, how to create epics, really big user stories. And then in this case, I also tried to connect some issues as user stories with the epic. And yeah, so this is, I would say, a user story which is one level below. So we would be. By the way, am I switching the screen too quickly?
No.
All right. So we discussed this epic here, and now we're one level further down, I would say. And this is how I would see a user story at that level. Like, this is a smaller user story, and it still has a dedicated user, a dedicated value, a Y, like something that will reach the user, right? In this case, I want to see the development of one broadcast over the last 6 months. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one could argue, if you have a line diagram, line chart, and there's this visualization I really like by now. Yeah, examples for pretty much everything. Graph, right? I would say it's already a value to the user if you could see just, let's say you have the approval on the y-axis and the time on the x-axis, and that's it. If you have this just for one broadcast, right? I would say that's already big user value. No?
Yeah. Yes.
And having more than one broadcast is one step ahead. Like it's another feature, I would
Yes,
say.
to compare, yes, the comparison would be a value.
And also maybe changing the time. So let's say you can kind of drag this and move the period of time.
Yeah.
That would be another feature.
Yes.
Right? Or changing the number of KPIs you see per broadcast. Let's say you have 5 and you want to see all 5 for one broadcast, maybe in different colors.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my understanding of a user story on that particular level here. So I created this this user story as like level 1 user story, and I added this to the Epic temporal visualization. Do you think that's kind of? I would put in another maybe a screenshot. I didn't have time to do that. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think that sounds reasonable?
Yes, I think it makes sense. I mean, if you put this smaller user stories, you just described, I think it makes sense. I don't think that's someone who reads an Epic starts developing on it. Obviously, he needs the smaller parts. Yeah. What I don't know when I read the features that need front end and back end development, how to start them, because I think you need to decide together with who develops on the front end if you make the back end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. So again, this is a burden, or this is an obstacle for new people who want to join. It's unlikely that you have people who can do both or are interested in both technologies, Ember.js and Rails at the same time. And we must find a way to onboard those people who are only interested in the backend part and who are only interested in the front end part only.
Yes, it's for that I think that you have to make issues. You have to separate the two parts already when you make the issues, I think.
Yeah, good point. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. The way how I see it, in order to separate them, is to write pending tests for front end and back end respectively.
Yes, because it makes the API if you.
Yeah. So if you have the API set up, you can just deploy that, right? You can merge that into master. Nothing is going to happen, even if the front end is not yet ready to make use of the API, right?
Yes.
But you can write an RSpec test, a request spec that will expect the right things, like the right data that you need in order to display the for example, the data as in a pretty visualization in the front end, right?
Yes. Once the API is decided through the test, then the two can work with no problem in a separated way.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to provide, in my opinion. You or who decides the feature, let's say. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's just text for somebody who comes new, it's difficult to ask him to decide the API. I think that's something very difficult.
Yeah.
But if the API is given, you can go.
Yeah. I have exactly the same thought like you. So one level further down, so we have been at the epic level. We are at the user story level, and I would say on this level we can include front end and back end. And if we further divide this into subtasks, then we should separate front end from the back end. No. And my idea is also that those subtasks might. So this is the user story exactly, and those subtasks. Come on, I'm kind of confused now. Epic user story, yeah. And yeah, so for example, that would be a subtask which is only in the backend. So I would expect that you can. Right now, it's already possible to say broadcast statistic, and you will get the statistic version of this broadcast. You watched the recording of last Scrum, right?
Yes.
So we were discussing the database views, and statistic is giving you the performance data, the KPIs of the broadcast, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And my idea is to have something like, okay, you give another method and they say from 2 weeks ago, for example, at a certain designated point in time.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can say approval, and that will give you the KPI approval of like broadcast 42, how it was 2 weeks ago. What do you think? Does that make sense?
Actually, I don't know, because I cannot remember the schema, let's say.
Yeah,
I mean, if from 2 weeks ago returns a single object, or yes, I think yes.
Yeah, it does. Is of course.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Statistic is one object related to broadcast, let's say.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then approval is like an attribute.
Yeah, it's like this row here. Like a statistic is the broadcast name and ID plus these attributes here.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So from 2 weeks ago, well, it needs the history.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to get those the line diagram, for example, like this line diagram, I would say, okay, there are different things to implement. So in the front end, you would have the line diagram visualization with high charts, for example. In order to draw this line, you need those data points here, right?
Yeah.
And so these points, they will get, the front end will receive this data from the back end.
Yeah.
Right. And additionally, if you want to have something interactive that you can specify the time, I would say you can set a start and an end date, and the number of steps. That is, how many steps in between do we have? Right. And then I ask for the KPI of one KPI for one broadcast. Yeah. So this would be a backend task. So I have the idea of the broadcast. I have the from and to specify the period of time.
Yeah.
And number of steps. And that's actually all I need. Oh, and of course the like KPI approval.
Okay.
What are we?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like let's say approval. Should return the approval of broadcast of a given ID over a period of time, something like that, maybe. And Yeah, so it's basically this entire feature would this entire user story would be combination. So in order to have this user story, and I think I can even add dependencies, right? Yeah, dependencies. So I don't know how I'm supposed to use Zenhub, but I believe that you have epics and you can put them into hierarchies like that, and then you write the user story. And I would say I just use the dependencies to connect those with subtasks. What do you think?
Yes, I think it works.
So add one. Can I add another one? Yeah, exactly. So now I can go to this issue. So yeah, so in order to get the KPI, one KPI for a broadcast at a certain time, I would need this one. So this is a method on the broadcast model. And the controller has the responsibility to make out of these 4 parameters here. Oh, there's a typo. Out of those 4 parameters, the controller would have the responsibility or the duty to create those periods of time, right? That was my idea. I mean, I still don't know if that's a good approach, if that is actually going to work. I found a specific extension to Postgres, which is temporal tables extension, and they basically work that you have a kind of a cache or a backup table where you have for every row in one table an entry with a validity period. So temporal tables. Okay, it doesn't look very well, but as far as I can tell, like you would have an for one impression, you would have the validity period when this impression was there. Let's say if the user decides I want to change my response from positive to neutral, like I say, for example, I want to remove that, which basically the same like I want to say I don't want to support it anymore. Basically it doesn't matter to me anymore, right? So now there's one record in the database which was changed. The response was set from positive to neutral. It's still there. It's not deleted or something. But as far as I can tell, those temporal tables, they have a second table for the impressions table with a validity period of the positive impression that it just changed, right? So it can basically ask one record in the database, have you been there? Or how did you look like at the 1st February of 2017? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I hope that, I'm absolutely not sure, but I hope that we can accomplish this with this extension. So we can also use temporal tables on maybe use, or I don't know, maybe if that doesn't work, we can maybe use it on the impression table. And then
okay, on views. Well,
right.
Well, I need to investigate. But
Say it
the
again.
views, I need to investigate if it's possible.
Do you get this thing with the validity?
Yeah, of course.
Thing. All right. Okay. I'm not quite sure because I didn't understand it myself the first time.
Yeah. No, I think it some way it tracks just changes. So when you ask, I don't know about it, but what I understand, when you ask for something, it looks if there is it's a time frame. If you ask for something at a given time, it searches that thing in an interval of time, and if it finds it, it returns it.
Yep.
Don't know. I have to read them. It's the first time I hear about temporal tables.
Yeah, this is just a suggestion. As I told earlier, I'm not the person who can say this is the best solution to it. Maybe there will be other solutions, but I think a little bit more direction for newcomers would be great. This is it's a big thing. I have to admit, this is not a really beginner-friendly issue.
Yeah.
But I try to give an example for what I see for my mental model of this hierarchy, right? So a subtask for me is something that doesn't immediately has a user value. Like it's something the backend does, and it can be there, even though the user doesn't even see it.
Yeah.
But you can merge the code. It does have a reason why it's there. It's part of a user story, which is not yet finished, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. It gets a value together with other subtasks.
Yeah, exactly. So this is my mental model, and really, I have never talked with anybody. You're the first person I'm talking to about this topic. So
well, it's my first Scrum, so.
Oh, really?
If it is a Scrum,
no,
I think.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a little bit much. It's a little bit more than a Scrum.
We're talking more than an hour already, so it's not a Scrum at all. So what the Scrum in our case is kind of a extended tutorial. In order to like just explain things and hope that people can learn something and are happy about it, and I don't know, have a good time or something. A Scrum usually is our daily Scrum is a really short meeting of not more than 15 minutes, and you usually say what you have done, what are you going to do, and where are the blockers. Right, like a standard meeting or something that should normally not even make more than 5 minutes. And I think, I don't know what Sam Joseph, the manager of agile-ventures, would say now, but I don't think this. I'm a little bit worried that if I ask what have you done in a weekly Scrum, people don't want to join anymore because they think they had to do something or they had to do some homework or something. So I just call it a tutorial. That sounds maybe nicer and doesn't expect anything from attendance. Right? I don't know. Give me feedback on that. I'm really new to being.
Probably yes. It's like you said. If Scrum is more a good thing when everybody had a task. When everybody works on something.
Yeah, if you have a team and you can rely on the team, for example, and we are a group of volunteers. So I cannot rely on anybody, but that's okay. I'm so happy that you are on part of the team.
Well, I'm learning. So I told you I developed in Rails since 2009.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Way more time than I ever had on
I
Rails.
think also the code review and the way you push, you make a merge request. If you do it this way, it's different. You learn more about from this. For example, the way I changed your features to fix the broken features, it was wrong. And if it didn't pass through a code review, it would remain that way. So now I learned to be more precise when I fix other features.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not wrong, right? So the only suggestion I had was make it a little bit more robust. Don't expect something not to be there. Expect something to be there.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking about that part, but about the part that when I use time travel to fix the thing that even if you specify in the table the updated add field, it was going to be not to be the value you specify in the table. So I use time travel to fix that problem, but that was obviously wrong, because if you specify updated add in the table, this step has to return the record with that updated add value. Instead, I used another step to bypass.
Right.
Thing, and that was wrong.
I see what you mean. Yeah, if you have the table and there's the developer put in updated add into the table, then this step definition has to update the updated add column.
The value has to be that. Not you have not to use another step to bypass the fact that there's something that overrides that. So that's perhaps for example something I learned about code review. If you work alone, you go on, you just want to make the test pass, and you don't learn so much.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. A code review is amazing. I couldn't live without code reviews anymore. One thing I really like about agile-ventures is that you can work in a team and you have more than just 2 eyeballs on code. And more people see more problems, and you can learn a lot from other people. Like both code reviewer and the code submitter learn from each other. I can see how you are working, and I learn from that. And the same, hopefully, vice versa.
Yes, of course. Yes. About the meeting, I think we have to fix a time range, because
long. I want to.
Or at least we have to know it up front.
Say it again.
Or at least we have to know up front how much we are going to, the maximum amount of time we are going to take. So
we can, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe we can. It was last time. It was too long as well. Maybe we can set up something like a timer.
Yeah, I think it's needed, because I know when you start to talk about something, you don't watch the time.
Yeah. It's 90 minutes now. It's way too long. Yeah, good feedback. Thank you. I think a timer
also for who is going to watch the video afterwards. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Let's call it a day, I would say, huh?
Okay.
Okay, great to have you here. And I will now hit the stop broadcast button.
Okay.
Bye.